Born of the royal line of Errol, daughter of Théoden, the sister of King Théoden, and the warrior Edmund, came the White Lady of Rohan, Éowyn. Fierce shield maiden, cunning warrior, devoted niece, immutable patriot, and loving cousin. This Lady of the Shield Arm was born in the year 2995 of the Third Age of Middle-earth. Tragedy and grief followed her through the days of her young life. In her youth, barely 7 years old, her father was brutally slain by orcs in an ambush, and her mother died of illness that many speculate came from a broken heart at the loss of her beloved Edmund. This young orphan and her brother were rescued from destitution by the generosity of their uncle, King Théoden of Rohan, who raised them as his own, affording them with all the power and influence that accompanied such an auspicious position at court and in the royal household. Little else is known of her youth, but it is clear that she was instructed in the ways of Rohan warriors, to both fight and ride as a shield maiden. Éowyn was not only a princess amongst the horse lords, but a horse lord in her own right, her later great feats in battle passing into legend. The etymology of her name ingrains her soul into the spirit of Rohan and their mighty steeds. Éowyn meant horse lover in Anglo-Saxon, and was derived from this old Welsh name, meaning horse friend. Tolkien himself described Éowyn in The Two Towers as follows.
Very fair was her face, and her long hair was like a river of gold. Slender and tall she was in her white robe, girt with silver. But strong she seemed, and stern as steel, a daughter of kings.
Though this young princess was a fearsome shield maiden with a hard passion and steely constitution necessary to withstand the many fraught challenges of pitched combat, her sense of duty and obedience to her loving and stern uncle always came first. Rather than taking part in the Battle of the Hornburg, either by way of its defense or in the consolation of the defenseless, she obeyed the orders of the king, taking the citizens of Rohan to the White Mountains. At the Feast of Address, with the threat of a hopeless conflict looming over his head, King Théoden knew he must secure his bloodline in a new heir if the ever more likely outcome of his death were to come to pass. Théoden's sister's son, Éomer, was the clear choice. Still, Éomer would never allow himself to be left behind when the white hands of Saruman descended upon his homeland. Another heir was needed, one that could be safely secured away from the battle. The king turned his conundrum over to his most trusted, asking,
Is there none whom you would name? In whom do my people trust?
Hama, door warden of Eitr, came to the king's aid to proffer.
In the house of Éori, Éowyn, daughter of Éomund, she is fearless and high-hearted. All love her. Let her be as lord to heirlings while we are gone.
The people of Rohan adored their White Lady, and entrusted her with their stewardship if the king and Éomer were to fall in battle. And so, by the king's command, the heralds announced the people's new heir. Upon a royal summons, Éowyn knelt before her king, and received a sword and fair corselet. Seeing his niece's strength and determination in the face of such a burden, Théoden swelled with pride and a glimmer of hope, declaring,
Dark is the hour, yet maybe we shall return to the Golden Hall. But in Dunhara the people may long defend themselves, and if the battle go ill, thither will come all who escape.
Éowyn's later conversation with Aragorn further infers her stout resolution and lack of fear of death in any coming battle. Some even believe this conversation is evidence that she has partaken in battle before. For as Aragorn was about to depart for his famous confrontation with the dead in the White Mountains, she not only professed her feelings for Aragorn, but also her desire to go with him. Even upon recognition of Aragorn's insistence that her duty was with her people, she still bitterly rebuffed her role.
Lord, if you must go, then let me ride in your following, for I am weary of skulking the hills and wish to face peril and battle. Shall I always be left behind when the riders depart, to mind the house when they win re-own, and find food and beds when they return? But I am of the house of Eorl, and not a serving woman. I can ride and wield a blade, and I do not fear either pain or death.
Éowyn's passion intrigued Aragorn, inspiring him to ask,
What do you fear, lady?
She replied,
A cage, to stay behind bars, until use and old age accept them, and all chance of doing great deeds is gone beyond recall or desire.
Despite this nigh-on crippling fear and her ever-persistent need for great deeds, she obeyed her king, and cared for the people of Rohan in the White Mountains, while the Battle of the Hornburg raged far away. Duty, loyalty, and the needs of her people were always put before her wants, forcing herself to overcome her fear of unimportance or potential enslavement. Éowyn always obeyed and did what she thought best for the people of Rohan. That is, until Aragorn shunned her advances and she was banned from the defense of Gondor, driving her in her bitterness to take on the disguise and alias of Durnhelm the Young, a man's name that came from the Welsh word for secret. Even in the fits of bitterness and deceit, she kept her head and saw the plight of Merry the Hobbit. She must have felt pity for the small creature, also rejected from the battlefield, despite a need to prove his valor. Following the fulfillment of a promise to Aragorn to fit Merry for battle, she also carried him into the fields of Pelennor, giving him the chance to prove himself in the battle to come. Éowyn sought no credit from the Hobbit for the risk she took in carrying him, or perhaps she did not trust his silence, as she kept her true identity concealed from Merry until her renowned conflict with the Witch King of Angmar. Further evidence of Éowyn's mettle and fearlessness can be derived not only from her physical conflict with the Witch King, but also from her resolute voice, striking clear through the haze of conflict, steady and unquavering in the face of so much evil.
Begone, foul Dimmerlake, Lord of Canyon, leave the dead in peace.
Even in the fight's darkest moments, she never balked or trembled, even going so far as to laugh upon the revelation of her true identity, confidently crying,
But no living man am I. You look upon a woman, Éowyn. I am Edmund's daughter.
Few mortals born of flesh could have stood before the Witch King. Yet there she laughed, standing before him, unmoved by his gruesome visage. Such bravery and steely determination set the Shieldmaiden above the rest, defining this woman and cementing her place amongst the annals of the best of Tolkien's creations. Her great feats recorded and her status in myth never to be forgotten. Éowyn was carried from the battlefield, the race poison burrowing into her soul, only staunched by the skill of Aragorn. Even as she began to recover, her health held her back from joining the final march of mankind against Sauron at the Battle of the Black Gate. Perhaps the woman who Éowyn was prior to her confrontation with the Witch King and the death of the man who was her father in all but blood, would have staunchly opposed her abandonment in Minas Tirith, with bitterness as her only companion. However, her recent ordeals had changed her and softened her heart, for she never need fear being forgotten. Yet there in the House of Healing, the struggles of love and heart within this fearless woman are shown. In this, her moment of greatest need, she meets the wounded and broken Faramir, who also craves and needs support. Their burgeoning love began with great conflict in her heart, for she still loved Aragorn and could not let him go so easily. Upon the triumphant return of Aragorn, these two stood upon the walls together, neither venturing out to partake in the raucous celebrations. Speculating on Éowyn's reluctance to leave the House of Healing, Faramir theorized,
2 reasons. There may be, but which is true, I do not know. You do not go because only your brother called for you, and to look on the Lord Aragorn, Elendil's heir, in his triumph would now bring you no joy? Or because I do not go, and you desire still to be near me, and maybe for both of these reasons, and you yourself cannot choose between them. Éowyn, do you not love me, or will you not?
Éowyn's familiar bitterness returned in this moment, forcing her to bite back.
I desire no man's pity.
Exemplifying the wisdom of this great captain of Gondor, Faramir revealed his compassion and his strength. He loved her, and he fully admitted to it with fear of nothing, but he showed no pity as he replied,
I do not offer you my pity, for you are a lady high and valiant, and have yourself won renown that shall not be forgotten. And you are a lady beautiful, I deem beyond even the words of the elven tongue to tell. And I love you. Once I pitied your sorrow, but now, were you sorrowless without fear or any lack, were you the blissful queen of Gondor, I still would love you. Éowyn, do you not love me?
It was here Éowyn's final healing began, and her ever-faithful bitterness fully ebbed away. Upon hearing his confession, her heart changed. Her wounds had healed, yet Faramir knew her heart had mending still to be done. But at that moment of hearing true love spoken, she allowed the shadow that had been on her and in her heart to pass, confessing.
I will be a shield maiden no longer, nor vie with the great riders, nor take joy only in the songs of slaying. I will be a healer, and love all things that grow and are not barren. No longer do I desire to be a queen.
Her bravery proven, her legacy cemented, and her bitterness released, Éowyn allowed herself to be happy and marry Faramir. Together, they bore a son, whose son would later chronicle the love story of Aragorn and Arwen. So passed the Shieldmaiden and White Lady of Rohan into legend, never to be forgotten, her bravery standing triumphant in history to inspire many who came after her.